Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down tonight. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down tonight. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up.
Hey guys, how we doing tonight? Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Can you hear me okay? Make sure my audio's on, right? Yep, it is. Okay. Just seems like I was like a little slow or something there. I don't know. But let me know if there's anything on your side, if it looks a little funny. Sorry about that. But welcome into tonight's live. Welcome to the channel. If you are new here on the channel, we go live every night. So if that's something that you're into, you might want to consider subscribing right off the bat. Don't even have to tell you my name. Don't even have to tell you that. But I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. My name is Tanya or TitaniumBuilt. Thank you for joining me for another live tonight. I appreciate you guys. We're going to talk Idaho 4, and we're going to get another person's perspective on the case. And I'm actually pretty excited about this one. I have to make up for last night. Last night was a little, not Ken's okay, but Ken's a bit much. So we're going to go the opposite direction tonight and talk about Dr. Grande. So I did Willow's. I was going to say something about that. Hey, Cyber Warrior. Hey, Willows. She said, or Willow said, hey, Tanya, did you hear about the Menendez brothers? And I did. I tweeted it out. So like sometimes if I see something like on Twitter, I'll like retweet it. But I saw it on TV and I was like, what are they saying? So Mark Garagos, is that his name? Mark Garagos. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's he doing on the TV? And I couldn't get to the remote, which is my phone, fast enough to turn it up. But I was reading and I was like, they're getting resentenced. And I was like, wow, which they are, up for parole. I mean, they should be up, I guess, up for parole. If that's the case, they've been in there for over 35 years. So aren't both of them married? Wonder how that's going to work when they get out. Now, can you imagine spending that much time, 35 years in prison 35 years ago, we barely had cell phones. Like, no, we had car phones. We were rocking car phones. Because I know my parents didn't have no cell phone back when I was little. My dad got his first cell phone. It was like one of them prepaid phones. I think when I was like 16, something like that. And he was so excited about that phone. Hey, Mary Beth. Hey, Ladybug. But I did hear about it and I was like, ooh. Hey, Dee, welcome in. Oh, actually, hold on one second. I want to make sure I say this right. But how are you guys doing tonight? How's everyone doing tonight? Dee's here. Catherine's here. Mia More. Dimitri, welcome in. Hey, Devaney. Petunia. If I miss you, I'm sorry. Oh, well, hey, Frenchie's putting the baby down. Hopefully the music didn't get her. Hey, Jawfill? Am I close, Jawfill? You guys are getting me with the names tonight. Hey, Tony. Hey, Mandy. We'll get there, though. Huh? Hey, Lord Mama. Hey, Villanova. Welcome in, everybody. It's good to see you guys. Hey, baby girl. We're going to talk some true crime here in a minute. Hey, Pete. If you missed, we did a live earlier on the other channel. We just did organization live. Just organizing. Hey, Jenna. And we are getting close to hitting 20,000 subscribers on this channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, you should. Hey, Kathy. I don't know if I said hey to you. Hey, Pete. I don't even know if I said hey to Pete. I'm losing it now. I know I highlighted your names. I don't know if I said hi, though. Hey, Squeaky. There he is. There's Squeaky. Hey, Jet Set. We got everybody coming in. I'll probably end up missing someone. But if I did, just be like, hey, you missed me. It's morning in Australia. Oh, look at that. It's dark as dark can be over here in the United States on my end anyway, actually. Not all the way, though. If you're from the West Coast, you still have some daylight. It's probably really pretty right now. Hey, Lenora. I'm getting to the bottom. Okay, I think I made it to the bottom. Willow's the legend of true crime. I just noticed the name. I just noticed the name change. I love it. I thought about, maybe putting Titanium, the legend built as my, maybe, make a new name, just a whole new channel, make a whole new name. I think that's so funny. We have a good sense of humor around here. So let me pull this up. I'm actually getting to get I want to get your opinion on this because they came out with a couple new documents today, but it was just sealing. So I'm just like, what are we sealing? Yeah, I noticed that. I love that. Oh, Ken. He is a legend. Legendary. But it's a motion to seal parties' joint proposed jury instruction regarding tip leading to investigation of the defendant. So I'm assuming it has to do with the DNA that the FBI and the Moscow, police were working with. They had that. Are they they said that they were going to call it a tip, consider it a tip. That's what the prosecution said instead of going into the IGG. So that's what I think it is. But they are, whatever it is, they're sealing it for now. So, and it's for the proposed jury instruction. It says motion is, so everything that's basically in the paragraph is in the top. It's motion to seal parties' joint proposed jury instruction regarding tip leading to investigation of the defendant. So, and it was the prosecution that wanted it sealed, and they sealed it. Just, that's all it was. That's all that was on there. I saw that there was new documents and I was like, what is it? And I was getting excited, but it was just this. But they do have court date on Thursday. And our friend Bryan Enton, our good friend, like we're good friends, Bryan Enton is going out to cover it. So that's awesome for us. I like when he was out there. Covers cases. I don't know. I like Bryan Enton on this case. He's done a pretty good job. So tonight we're going to go over some new things in the Idaho 4 case. Well, it'll be new to us. Dateline came out with a law on Friday, and so I'm still like processing some of it and working through some of it, but I think a lot of people are. They came out with a lot. And new, like, different people were dropping videos, and I like getting like other people's opinions, like out there. But I want to get your opinion on what you think's going on. So last night on the Dateline episode, it showed that Bryan Kohberger was watching certain creators on YouTube prior to his arrest back in 2022. And one of those creators was Ken Mains. And we went over his video last night. He came out and he did like a video saying, how he felt about Bryan Kohberger watching his channel. And he's an ex-detective. He's a bit much. So I didn't realize I must have not noticed the thumbnail because I'm subscribed to Dr. Grande, but I guess Bryan was watching Dr. Grande as well. And Dr. Grande, if you know who that is, he is the polar opposite of Ken Mains. Like, if you could put those two in a room together, you would have the two complete opposites. But I thought that we would go over what he says this evening, because I thought, hey, Patty, hey, Kake, I thought it would be kind of interesting, to see his point of view. So, okay. So before we do that, we're going to get us all kind of caught up, just in case, people were at work or living under a rock this weekend. I don't know. This is just a car similar to Bryan Kohberger seen near victim's home multiple times just before alleged killings. And it's going to go through a bunch of the stuff that the Dateline episode covered. So I'm trying to get this to close this video, but it won't. Oh, it's probably because I disabled the ads. So a car that looks like Bryan Kohberger's was seen several times near the Moscow, Idaho home on the morning when 4 college students were found dead, according to a new Dateline report. Kohberger is charged with first-degree murder in the November 13th, 2022 deaths of University of Idaho students Xander Kernodle, 20, Kaylee Gonzalez, 21, Madison Mogan, 21, and Ethan Chapin, 20. The former Washington State University student was also charged with 1 felony count of burglary. FBI cell phone tower data obtained by NBC's Dateline allegedly shows that Kohberger's cell phone pinged nearly a dozen times to a tower that provides coverage to an area within 100 feet of 1122 King Road, where the 4 University of Idaho students were killed. The late night drives all allegedly happened starting in July of 2022 and continued through mid-August 2022. I need to make a new timeline on this case, and add everything. And go back further than the timeline we have. According to the report, the late night drives in the area of the King Road house began following a Moscow pool party that Kohberger was invited to. In the first 2 weeks of October 2022, around a month before the killings, records show that Kohberger allegedly visited an area near the same cell phone towers 3 more times. Gary Brucato, a forensic psychologist, said while it is impossible to know what was in Kohberger's mind while driving in the area, it could indicate that he was building up nerve while making those late night trips. That's true, I guess. Yeah. It is also unclear if Kohberger stopped during any of these drives, according to the report. Now, that would be interesting to know. Perhaps. Perhaps he parked in the back, and stopped for a minute and, then left. In total, FBI cell phone records indicate that Kohberger was within 100 meters of the King Road house on 23 occasions, including 1 time on November 7th. All the trips were after dark. And what was it? 100 meters is like 109 yards or something like that. So a little over a football field. I'm trying to think of that could be, not far, but it's pretty close. So, 23 occasions. Okay. So 1 time November 7th. That could have been maybe He was getting his last bit of, surveillance in. Maybe that's why he was going around that area. At 3:30 a.m. on November 13th, 2022, the night when Coronado, Gonzalez, Mogan, and Chapin were killed, a white Hyundai Elantra resembling Kohberger's was seen turning onto King Road, according to security video. Just 3 minutes later, the car was seen leaving King Road and turning right. 5 minutes later, at 3:38 a.m., the car was back on King Road and exited at 3:40 a.m. At 3:56 a.m., the car was seen again turning onto King Road and left at 3:58 a.m. At 4:06 a.m., the Elantra was seen doing a U-turn and going back onto King Road. At 4:20 a.m., after Kohberger allegedly killed the 4 college students, the car was seen speeding away from the King Road house. Cell phone records obtained by Dateline also showed Kohberger allegedly placed a call at 6:17 a.m. on November 13th, 2022, to his father, Michael Kohberger. And I find this very interesting. That phone call lasted 36 minutes. I wonder if he calls his dad a lot, because he called 2 more times that morning alone, that morning. So, I mean, I wonder what he had to talk about. We know probably what Dylan and, Bethany might have been talking to their parents about. But what was Bryan talking to his dad about? Hey, Dad, just calling to say what's up. I mean, maybe he was in just such a great mood after all this. I don't know. I'm just, allegedly, I'm saying, like on some sort of high, that he was like going to call his parents and just be like talking to them, because he didn't have like a whole lot of friends to call. I don't know, but I would like to know what he was talking to him about for 36 minutes. And then he made 2 more calls to his father that morning, according to cell phone records. What do you think they were talking about? I think it was like the day before or a couple days before. It was very close, I believe. Or was it after? It was afterwards. It was after. Because when he went back to the school, he was grading and stuff, like giving everybody A's. But he, I want to say it was like December. It was like right before he left to go back home. I can look that up in a moment too. At 10:31 a.m., Kohberger's phone pinged to a tower that served the towns of Clarkston, Washington, and Lewiston, Idaho. According to the Dateline report, law enforcement officials believe Kohberger could have been disposing of evidence, such as a knife or clothing. Now, we haven't heard that from law enforcement. And on that search warrant, that first thing that they found in his house is knife. And to me, that still just sticks out. Like, it doesn't. The other ones that were found, the other knives, they were like folding knives. Like they, described that what they were. One of them was like a Blue Ridge knife. Like that's where it was from. I don't know. This one just says knife. Like, I don't know. Just kind of weird to me. It says there was no prior interaction between Bryan Kohberger and any of the victims, but according to People magazine, I'm going to say it again, that they said that there was. They don't have any records of conversations with them that they found, said investigative journalist Howard Bloom. Yes, yeah, I don't trust him either. Timeline of November 13th, 2022. 4 a.m., the suspect arrives at the house. Between 4 and 4:17 is the time of the murders. 4:19, the roommate calls 3 victims. No one answers. 4:22 to 4:24, surviving roommates text each other from inside the house. 4:27, roommate calls victims again. No one answers. 4:32, roommate texts Gonzalez, please answer. 10:23, surviving roommate text victims. No one answers. 11:39, roommate calls her father. 12 p.m., 911 call placed from the roommate's phone. It says, notably on August 16th, 2022, Kohberger allegedly made an online search for Ted Bundy, according to investigative records obtained by Dateline. Then continued to read a research paper about the serial killer. So, I mean, I wonder if like that was for a paper. Well, no. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe. But when does school start there, actually? I don't know when school starts there. I think it starts as like September here, but I don't know. I don't know when Washington State starts. Yeah, his mood changed afterwards. Yeah. He went from being like uptight, grading every paper with like red marks everywhere, to just kind of like letting people scoot on by with whatever like, here's your grade. Here's your grade. So the first video I want to show you is my drink's in the way. I'm like, this fast or rewound all the way. Okay. It's this one. I don't know. He talks slow but fast at the same time. So I might speed him up, but I don't know. But this is Dr. Grande. If you don't know who this is, he's a psychologist, I believe. He just takes his training and he puts it towards different cases. People like write into him or like will get a hold of him through his like Patreon or whatever it is. And it'll say like, he'll say like, today, the question is, will I like talk about, or, something like that about Bryan Kohberger or, like something along those lines he'll say. It's a lot better. He has much better wording than I do, but he's pretty good if you don't know who he is. I will put the link to his channel in the chat. I'm going to do that right now so I don't forget. And then we'll play this. So this is a video here says, Bryan Kohberger watched my video on Idaho quadruple murder. And then it has a question mark. So we're going to see what he says. Kohberger case update and analysis. And then I think I do have the video. Wow, he looks a lot different. Not like a lot, but it's his background. I think that I have the video that he watched, which is like 12 minutes long. And then also after that, we can watch this video that NewsNation put out. It's a compilation of like their coverage of the Idaho 4 case with Brian Enton mostly and Ashley Banfield. And it was actually, we were told a lot of things that just weren't true. That like we're finding out now, like through court documents that just weren't true. And it's like, why were we lying? I guess. Why were we lying? So we'll go over that as well. And thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate it so much. If you guys don't mind, I haven't asked you because I forgot. Don't forget to hit the like button. If you could help me out, just hit the like button. It's free. It helps to get the video out there. More people will come in and hang out with us in the chat. Pretty simple. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Okay, let's get to Dr. Grande.
Today, I will analyze the new information revealed about the Bryan Kohberger case on Dateline and offer my thoughts about why Bryan watched one of my videos about the quadruple murder in Moscow, Idaho. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Bryan Christopher Kohberger was born on November 21, 1994, in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. He graduated from high school in 2013. When Bryan was a teenager, he wrote online about experiencing a few mental health symptoms, including a lack of emotion, dissociation, and minimal remorse. He told a friend about how he struggled with depression and mentioned prior heroin use. At one time, Bryan was very heavy, but he lost over 100 pounds. His goal in life was to work with high-profile criminal offenders. In 2018, Bryan earned an associate's degree in psychology from a community college. He worked as a security guard for the Pleasant Valley School District. In 2020, he earned a bachelor's degree in psychology. In 2022, Bryan graduated with a master's degree in criminal justice. In June of that year, he moved to Pullman, Washington, and attended Washington State University, pursuing a PhD in criminology. He was given a job as a teaching assistant, but lost that job on December 19, 2022, due to his behavior and poor performance. Evidently, Bryan was a little too demanding. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On November 13, 2022, at 11:56 a.m., a woman named Bethany Funk, who lived in a house on 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, called 911. She said, "Something happened at our house, and we don't know what." While trying to supply the address, she appeared to be very upset. Another woman took the phone and said, quote, "One of the roommates who's passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up," unquote. Here is what the police found during the course of their investigation. The house on King Road had 3 floors, with 2 bedrooms on each floor. It was built on a hill, so the second floor was level with the ground on one side. On the second floor, the bedrooms were separated.
I like how he takes each video and he explains, like in the beginning, he explains what he, about the case, and he breaks it down. He does a really good job at that.
By a living room and a kitchen area. The police found 4 college students dead in the house. 21-year-old Madison Mogan, 20-year-old Xana Kernodle, 21-year-old Kaylee Gonsalves, and 20-year-old Ethan Chapin. Madison and Xana lived in the house along with 2 roommates who were unharmed, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk. Again, Bethany is the person who called 911. Kaylee had recently moved out but was visiting the house. Ethan was Xana's boyfriend. He often slept over. Madison and Kaylee were found in Madison's bedroom on the 3rd floor. Next to Madison's body, the police found a leather knife sheath. Xana and Ethan were found in Xana's bedroom on the 2nd floor. All 4 victims had been stabbed to death. The police believed that the killer entered on the 2nd floor through the sliding glass door, which was left unlocked. He went upstairs to Madison's bedroom, where he killed Madison and Kaylee. Xana heard the attack and investigated. In response to being confronted by Xana, the killer dropped the knife sheath and chased her back to her bedroom. There he murdered both Xana and Ethan. On the evening of November 12, the 4 residents of the house, plus Kaylee and Ethan, arrived at the house no later than 2 p.m. By 4 a.m., they were in their bedrooms. Some of them were asleep. At 4:17 a.m., a surveillance camera captured distorted voices followed by a loud thud. At around the same time, Dylan Mortensen heard noises and looked out of her bedroom door 2 times without seeing anything. When she looked for a 3rd time, she saw a man she did not recognize. He was wearing black clothing and a mask and had bushy eyebrows. The man exited the house through the sliding glass door without making any effort to attack Dylan. In an apparent state of panic, she locked her bedroom door. No one called the police for over 7 hours. Presumably, the man that Dylan saw was the killer. The police found surveillance video which covered part of King Road, and they identified a white Hyundai Elantra spotted near the King Road house. The car was there at 3:30 a.m., 3:33, 3:38, 3:40, 3:56, and 3:58 a.m. At 4:06 a.m., the vehicle turned around at the intersection of Queen Road and King Road and drove toward the house. Presumably, the vehicle stopped in front of the house. The vehicle drove away quickly at 4:20 a.m. The police found a vehicle matching the description of this vehicle registered to Bryan Kohberger. He was not arrested at this time. Rather, he was kept under surveillance. Bryan left his apartment in Pullman, Washington, to drive back to his family home with his father. Bryan was pulled over in Indiana on December 15, 2022. He arrived at his parents' house in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania
There's that picture.
on December 16. 14 days later, on December 30, Bryan Kohberger was arrested. He was charged with 4 counts of murder and 1 count of burglary. In September 2024, a judge granted a defense motion for a change of venue. Bryan's trial will be held in Boise, Idaho, and is scheduled to start on August 11, 2025. If he is convicted, Bryan Kohberger could face the death penalty, which may be carried out by a firing squad based on a 2023 change in Idaho's execution protocol. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Bryan Kohberger maintains his innocence and, amazingly, he has a large number of supporters. They argue there is insufficient evidence that he was responsible for the murders. The state, of course, disagrees. They believe it is obvious that Bryan is the killer. With this in mind, was Bryan Kohberger guilty of murder? In my analysis, I will include the new incriminating evidence revealed in a Dateline episode on this case. Let's look at the evidence both for and against the idea that he was guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. About 8 months before the murders, Bryan purchased a 7-inch K-bar knife with a sheath on Amazon. The sheath matched the one found in Madison's bedroom. Bryan's DNA was on that sheath.
And I was thinking about that earlier today, right? So if he bought the knife and the sheath, right? And Bryan didn't commit this crime. Where's the knife and the sheath? Okay, don't have it anymore, right? That got rid of it. But then why would you get rid of it and then go and buy another one? Like pretty much you were going to buy another one. You had it in your cart. You had it in your little baggie to check out. All like, you know what I mean? Just like all within a year. Within like months actually of each other. So it's, it's very, very, very strange to me. That's very strange to me. Also, in the picture of him with the selfie, I didn't realize, I don't know why my brain doesn't work like this to know which hand we were looking at, but we're looking at his like left hand. And so I'm thinking that if we were looking at his right hand, we may have seen more injury to it. So, yeah, I've got questions. And thanks, Mal. That was really sweet of you.
After the murders, he searched on Amazon for a K-bar knife sheath as if he was looking for a replacement. Not long after moving to Washington, Bryan searched for images of female students at Washington State University and the University of Idaho. Many of the students were wearing bathing suits. Some of the students were friends with the 3 women who were murdered at the King Road house. In August 2022, Bryan Kohberger searched online for information about Ted Bundy and downloaded a research article about how serial killers justify their behavior. On September 30, Bryan searched the internet for sociopathic traits in college student. On October 9, he searched for adults-only videos with the keywords forced, passed out, drugged, and sleeping. On October 19, he searched for can psychopaths behave prosocially. In July and August 2022, Bryan's phone had been in the area of the King Road house on several occasions. On November 13, at 2:47 a.m., about an hour and a half before the murders, Bryan's phone left his apartment in Pullman. It was deactivated at 2:54 a.m. At 4:48 a.m., Bryan's phone was reactivated, so his phone was off during the time of the murders. A vehicle matching the description of Bryan's Hyundai Elantra was captured driving by the house on King Road several times. It returned right before the murders and left right after the murders. Bryan thoroughly washed his vehicle after the murders and changed the registration. Bryan matched the description of the presumed killer, which was provided by Dylan Mortensen. His phone was in the area of the King Road house in the hours after the murders. In the weeks after the crime, Bryan searched the internet for University of Idaho murders. He watched several videos about the case, including one on November 28, which I published on November 21, titled, Does the College Student Killer in Idaho Share Traits with Ted Bundy?
That's the one
when
I got.
Bryan was arrested at his parents' house in Pennsylvania, he was taking
That's
out
the one I was gonna
trash
show
at
you.
about 4 a.m. while wearing surgical gloves. Moving to the exculpatory factors, Dylan Mortensen was intoxicated when she saw the presumed killer. Her description may not be accurate. Bryan Kohberger did not have any obvious connection to any of the victims. That's pretty much it for the exculpatory factors. When considering all the evidence in this case, do I believe that Bryan Kohberger is guilty? Yes, I am convinced of his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Item number 2, what mental health factors may have been at work in this case? Bryan's defense has indicated that he has autism spectrum disorder and obsessive compulsive disorder.
Me
He
too, bro.
is socially awkward, displays extremely rigid thinking, processes information on a piecemeal basis, has difficulty planning ahead, perseverates on specific topics, and has a lack of insight.
I mean, he did tell the cop, like, do you want to go have coffee when this is all over with, when he got arrested? So, I mean, if that's true, like, that's a true thing that he would say, then, I mean, that could be a sign of autism.
Given Bryan's search history, it seems likely that he believed
Like
he had characteristics of psychopathy. This brings me to Item
Getting
number
hard to
3.
conversate.
What do I
I'm like
think
that.
happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Bryan Kohberger was self-centered, impulsive, sensation-seeking, cold, callous, obsessive, manipulative, deceptive, fearless, grandiose, antagonistic, remorseless, socially awkward, had a sense of entitlement, and was exceedingly creepy. He was probably correct about having
Don't have this guy do something on you. Ooh.
characteristics of psychopathy. Bryan was motivated by a desire to dominate women sexually. He knew that these desires were antisocial and wanted to know if he would ever be normal. He was interested to know if he could ever change. This is why he searched for, can psychopaths behave prosocially? Bryan was looking for hope, but he did not find any. Ultimately, he accepted the destiny he believed was unavoidable and gave in to his dark desires. The house on King Road was selected as the location for the crime because Bryan wanted to kill Madison. It's not clear how he knew about Madison, but he must have learned about her in some way. Maybe he simply saw her one day outside her house. When Bryan went to Madison's bedroom, he was surprised to see Kaylee in the same bed as her. He was again surprised when Xana investigated the noise that he was making. Bryan ended up killing 4 people, but probably only intended on killing 1. He left the house without killing Dylan because he assumed she already called 911, and he was exhausted. The knife sheath was left behind during the confusion, which sealed Bryan's fate. Now moving to item number 4. As I mentioned, over a month before he was arrested, Bryan watched one of my YouTube videos about the murders. In the video, I talked about the likely characteristics of the perpetrator based on the nature of the crime.
I
For
watched the
example,
video.
I indicated that the offender was probably a male between 20 and 40 years old. Bryan was 8 days shy of his 28th birthday when he allegedly committed the murders. The killer was looking for a specific victim. We now know Madison
I'll
was
let
the
my
intended
dogs in.
victim. The killer's motive was sexual. Bryan made multiple searches for female college students in bathing suits and for adults-only videos. The offender was socially awkward and a creepy loner. Bryan matches both of those descriptions. The killer had a criminal record. Bryan did not have a criminal record, but he did admit to using heroin, which of course is a crime. And the offender was excited in the hours after the murder. I don't know if Bryan was excited or not, but he
Well, he did steal his sister's cell phone, and he took it to the Walmart, remember? and he got money for it. So, I mean, that's a crime. That's literally stealing, right? If you want to be technical, that's stealing. And I let the dogs in. They came in right in and laid down.
allegedly returned to the scene of the murders not long after 9 a.m. and took a selfie at 10:31 a.m.
See, the selfie here is the one I'm talking about. Like, because it looks like there's a mark right there on his hand, and then it was like underneath his hand, like underneath his finger. Well, let me do it on the right one. Underneath like the finger, and then like right up here. But I don't. The one on the, the finger is what gets me, because if he was punching somebody, he might have like connected with teeth, or you know what I mean? Like bone, some along those lines.
I don't know why
I
Bryan
wish we could see his other hand.
watched my video. He may have been eager to learn what a PhD counselor educator had to say about the crime. Maybe this could give him some advantage in his effort to escape responsibility. For example, Bryan learned that he had many of the characteristics that law enforcement would have been looking for. Perhaps he used the information to adjust his behavior to appear less like the offender's personality profile. For instance, Bryan may have been trying to appear less creepy. The video that Bryan watched also contained my thoughts on how the Idaho quadruple murder case was similar to the notorious Chi Omega murders perpetrated by Ted Bundy in 1978. Ted entered a sorority house in Tallahassee, Florida, and attacked multiple women with a piece of firewood. It is believed Ted assumed he would get arrested because his crime was so brazen. I imagine that when Bryan watched this segment of the video, it was not encouraging for him. Maybe he realized that his arrest was also likely. On the other hand, it's possible that Bryan found this comparison exciting or even inspiring because he allegedly committed a crime which was comparable to one of the most notorious attacks in the history of true crime. Bryan had allegedly cemented his place as a villain. Now, moving to my final thoughts. One question that I've received after the Dateline episode aired is, how does it feel to know that Bryan
No.
watched one of my videos?
He's
Here are my thoughts
right-handed.
on this. Over the last 11 years, I have made thousands of videos. I produce videos about a lot of different topics like troubled social media influencers, politics, pop culture, misbehaving actors, transportation disasters, cult activity, missing people, and of course, true crime. I've received messages from many people involved directly or indirectly with cases I've covered: perpetrators, victims, investigators, lawyers, and of course, family members, friends, or acquaintances of any of those groups. For example, the mother of a perpetrator or the neighbor of a victim. For the most part, people thank me in these messages. They found my video to be interesting, accurate, or helpful. On a few occasions, however, people aren't too thrilled with my analysis, especially the perpetrators. If they were the target of dark humor contained in the video, it only increases the likelihood of a negative response on their part. Offenders don't always find the dark humor as funny as members of the public. When considering Bryan Kohberger's situation, it makes sense that he would watch a video about a crime he allegedly committed. In addition, Bryan was a PhD student. People in this category tend to be intellectually curious. Many people who enjoy my channel
I think
have a
more than
very
that
high
now.
level of
Let me see.
intellectual curiosity. This is something that I've witnessed repeatedly over the years. The fact that Bryan watched my video.
Okay, he's moving on up in the world. I thought he had 700,000. He has 1.59 million. Yeah. Whew,
Isn't really
a
surprising.
lot.
Even so, it is a little weird to imagine a man who allegedly just killed 4 people was trying to learn from an analysis I conducted. He was trying to figure out how to use the information to escape or to gain gratification. Either purpose is disconcerting and unnerving. Whenever a content creator produces educational material, there is always a chance it will be consumed by someone whose purpose for watching deviates from the expected. This is just part of the business of making videos. Fortunately, Bryan Kohberger was arrested, so all his further enjoyment of my videos
Hmm.
will occur behind bars, where his potential for destruction is limited. Those are my thoughts on the case of Bryan Kohberger.
I just figured I would play him. He kind of put me to sleep too, ain't gonna lie. But no, he really, he was, when I first started watching him, he had like, I don't know how many hundred, he had like hundreds of thousands, but maybe 100,000 or something. But now he's over 1 million. Wow. Okay. So the video that I think he was referring to is this video here. I won't play it for you guys because he does get a little tiring. But I'll put the link for it in the chat. And it's just basically, does he have the same characteristics as, this was a video he did 2 years ago. And it says, does the college student killer in Idaho share traits with Ted Bundy? Idaho murders case analysis. And I remember actually him being the one of the only creators that would put like killer or something in his title other than me. Like I got it from him though. Like I took it from him because I was like, well, he's getting views and he's putting that like word in his title. So, you know what I mean? I'm like, if people want to watch it, they're going to, they'll be there for it. Because I hate having to say like unaliving. I hate saying that. I'll say it if we're talking about it a lot, and I won't say the S word because I have had, after my stream, we shut down one night. Like after I left my stream one night, I had a like hotline phone number given to me from like StreamYard or something. I don't even know where it came from. I was like, what? And it was because we were talking about it, and they thought I was going to unalive myself or something, I guess. But because I wanted to watch this with you guys because it did have a lot of really good parts in it. It had like some really good parts, stuff that I didn't like, that I forgot, or maybe it's a newer video and we just haven't watched it. But there's a compilation of all of like a lot of not all, but a lot of the videos that they did over the Idaho 4 case, because they've done so many they couldn't fit them all in here, but they do have a good amount. And I wanted to go over some of them with you, and just like I'm going to pause it here and there because there's a lot that was told to us, or like, like in the beginning, or what we thought, and it was just like completely off. You know what I mean? It was just we were completely wrong. But and some of the things we're right about. But I just wanted to play this for you guys so we could go through it, because I thought it would be pretty interesting to see all of the interviews, kind of not like all of them, but most of them in one spot. And I didn't have to go through and get all these.
Welcome to NewsNation's Back Scroll, where we look back at our major news coverage on the most important topics and personalities of our time.
And welcome to this Thursday edition of Banfield. I want to begin with some breaking news on the Idaho murder case. A couple of sources with knowledge of the investigation have told NewsNation some details that up until now we did not know. Let me lay a few of these details out, but I do want to warn you that this is graphic information and it is uncomfortable to hear this because we're talking about innocent kids who were killed in that home back in October. And not only that, this is evidence that likely will come out in court at some point. Whether it will be germane to who the killer is or not, that remains to be seen. But it could be evidence nonetheless. With that in mind, let me let you know what these sources have told NewsNation. Number one, they told us that the victims, Kaylee Gonzalez and Madison Mogan, were killed first, and they confirmed that Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were killed on the second floor afterwards. And these are some of the...
And we're going to hear a lot here in a minute that's not true.
Other details that they have released.
That's right here.
They said that Ethan Chapin was killed in the doorway of Xana Kernodle's room before.
Well, we know that's untrue because they couldn't see her from the doorway. They could see Xana from the doorway, but they couldn't see Ethan from the doorway.
Or the killer set upon Xana. The sources say that it appeared Ethan had stepped partly into the hallway where the attack may have begun. These sources also say that Ethan Chapin suffered a slash to the neck. But I have to say that both of these details are in direct conflict with what the coroner had originally told us right here on this program exclusively. And also, they conflict directly with what police have said as well. And those two facts that are in conflict are that all of the victims were in their beds, according to police and the coroner. And according to the coroner, all of the injuries were stab wounds and not slash wounds. So I just want to play for you exactly what it was the coroner said in her words.
Yeah, like some of this stuff, I was listening to it and I was like, that was wrong. That's wrong. That's why I was like, we need to listen to this because, I mean, we didn't know, we didn't know any better. Now that we know that Ethan's, I want to say allegedly, according to Dateline, allegedly, Ethan's legs were carved. That's going to, I mean, the coroner's going to say something kind of different too. Like she's going to say these were stabbings. But maybe that's why she classified them just as that, and that's it, because she didn't want to go into great detail. You know what I mean? I can assume that. I wonder who these sources were, right? Were these sources like YouTube creators? I mean, like, who were your sources back then? I want to know. I'm curious.
Slashed? Were any of their necks cut? Or were these all puncture wounds?
Well, it was a pretty large knife, so it's really hard to call them puncture wounds. And they were definitely stabbings.
Can you tell me, when you say that they might have been sleeping, were they found in beds?
Yes.
So those were the facts that the coroner told us. And like I said, it is in direct conflict with what these two sources familiar with the investigation are now telling us as well. That obviously needs to be sorted out and likely best in a court of law as well. Also want to tell you these other details that we have learned from these two sources, that Xana Kernodle put up a fierce fight when the attacker set upon her, repeatedly grabbing the attacker's knife, so much so that she sustained deep cuts to her fingers and that her fingers were nearly severed. Now, that does actually work in comport with what Xana's father had reported to an Arizona news outlet about what he knew. Police blotters and call logs are public record. Anybody can see them, and rightly.
This one was December the 2nd. Or I mean 1st, I'm sorry. Obviously, I'm looking at a 1. But I wanted to tell you because I forgot to tell you the first date.
So, because taxpayers pay for that work product. And now some eagle-eyed followers of the Idaho quadruple murder case have picked up on one particular item from the police.
So 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
On the night that the 4 college kids were murdered. In fact, the incident in question happened at almost exactly the same time as the killings. I'm going to read to you what the police blotter actually says. Quote, there was an alcohol offense reported at 3:01 a.m. on November 13th, and that's the last night the kids were alive. The location, a field on Taylor Avenue. You can see it there. Band. It's called Band Field. So that is not far from the Sigma Chi frat house where 2 of the victims, Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin, spent a lot of their evening earlier on that night. The police timeline puts them at the Sigma Chi party from 8 to 9 p.m. But then there's a big 4-hour and 45-minute black hole where nobody knows, or nobody's saying anyway, where Ethan and Xana were between 9 p.m. until they got home at 1:45 a.m. So our Brian Enton joins me live again, and we're also joined by Gemma Gaudet, who's the host.
Why wasn't anybody saying that they were just at the party? Hey, awesome girl, welcome in. Because to me, that's, it doesn't make a difference. Do you know what I mean? Just say where they were.
Host of Idaho Matters on Boise State Public Radio. Thank you to both. Okay, Brian, I'm going to begin with you. The big question is, what do we know about that very strange police call at 3:01 a.m.?
Well, we don't know much more than what you just said, Ashley. It was in the police blotter 301, had something to do with alcohol. Police did take down a report, although we haven't been able to get that report at this point. This is the field behind me where the call was made, the big white field right there. That's the frat house you just talked about. You can see with the Christmas lights, and it's all very, very close to the house where the murders happened.
I don't know if you're able to, but if you and your photographer Mo could sort of walk me that way, because as I understand it, you might actually be able to walk me at least part or all of the way from where you are to the home where the victims lived.
Yeah, we can walk you there. Again, frat house, field. This is like an apartment complex parking lot that we're in, and we'll walk you back, Ashley. And I've been telling you the last couple of days, there's it's a dense area. You know, when you just look at the shot of the house, you don't realize that all of these houses and apartment buildings are around. This is like a little walkway that the students use to get down to the frat houses. And we'll just walk up here. Be careful, Mo, because it's a little slippery. It's been snowing nonstop pretty much all day. Just looks like it let up a little bit. So we go up.
He said, be careful, Mo. That must be his camera person's name. That's so sweet of him.
These steps here. And then this is a little road right here, Ashley. And you see here is the house. This is the house where the murders happened. So it's a short walk.
No idea. Wow. I mean, short walk, that's like 55 seconds. I mean, they could have gotten home so quickly from that frat house. I had no idea it was that close, Brian. That's remarkable.
Very close. Yeah,
okay,
very,
well, Gemma,
very
now
close.
that we
and also again, all the places they walked by. No, I was just saying, all the places, the apartments, the houses that they would have walked by. I mean, again, it's a dense area. There's a lot of people who live in this area.
Yeah, and all the witnesses who might
wonder if they got them like on camera coming back home. You know what I mean? Like one of those cameras. Like I wonder if there was a camera in that walkway. I know that they were over there spraying like luminol and stuff over in that area. And this snow here was like, this happened, it started snowing like a week or so after the homicides. It wasn't like directly after, but it was pretty close after.
Might have seen something or had a camera out or would have just thought yet another group of students walking by. So Gemma, you just saw what Brian showed us and how close that was to the frat house. Talk to me a little bit about that frat party that night, because my thinking is that Ethan is a frat brother at the Sigma Chi. They all had to have known, if he'd gone at 9 o'clock at night and they didn't see him again, right?
Well, what we know at this point, Ashley, about that fraternity party is that Ethan and Xana went together, as you mentioned, and then our understanding is that Hunter, Ethan's triplet brother, it was also a part of that fraternity house, and Hunter took Maisie, their sister, as his +1. But even Idaho State Police, the communications director for Idaho State Police, has said there are gaps in that timeline that night at Sigma Chi, and they want students to help them fill in those gaps. So they're still wondering, we're still wondering, what happened within that time frame.
It's fascinating to read that, Maisie and Hunter, the two triplets with Ethan, were at that party as well and spent the whole evening together with Ethan and Xana until those two left the party, which you would think they would know the time they left the party, and yet we're not being told that. I want to start here, though. If you were with us last night,
I didn't see that.
Your head might still be spinning from all the new. And
this is March 21st, 2025. I don't think we watched this one. I don't think we did anyway, because I was listening to one of these earlier, and I was like, I don't remember listening to this with y'all.
Stunning details that came out late in the day in the Idaho student murders. And I know I'm right there with you. It's just kind of mind-blowing what we're learning, because there's been a gag order for 2.5 years. So we rushed that breaking news on the air last night, and we picked it apart in real time. And then when we went off the air, we kept reading through the hundreds of pages, and we found even more. Some of it comes close to smoking gun territory, where Bryan Kohberger is concerned. But even now, the defense has an answer for almost everything. And I stress the word almost. We now know a lot about Kohberger's so-called click history at Amazon. Yesterday, I told you that he bought a K-bar knife, identical to the murder weapon, 8 months before the university students were murdered. He also bought a K-bar knife sheath, identical to the one that was left behind at the crime scene. And for good measure, he bought a knife sharpener, according to the prosecutor's list of Amazon purchases. But now we know he was looking to buy something else, a so-called replacement K-bar knife and sheath. And this was after the murders happened. Remember, the killer made that critical mistake and left the knife sheath next to the bodies of Steve Gonzalez and Maddie Mogan. The murder weapon has never been found, so it stands to reason that the killer might need a replacement for both the knife and the sheath, if anyone ever came around asking. And of course, someone came around asking Bryan Kohberger. By the way, we also got to see the selfie that Bryan Kohberger himself snapped in what appears to be his bathroom, a bathroom. But we know this, that picture with the shower behind him was taken just 6 hours after the murders, and an hour and a half before 911 was even called. He is smiling. He's giving a thumbs up about something, seemingly does not have a care in the world, and looks pretty proud of, again, something. This was taken after tracking shows that Kohberger's cell phone visited the King Road area twice just that morning, traveling from his student apartment across the state line in Washington. And with all of this new information, we have a new theory about why he might have felt compelled to go back to the murder scene in the morning, if indeed he's the murderer. I'm joined again by NewsNation's senior national correspondent, Brian Enton, who's been going through these documents. Boy, we didn't sleep much last night going through these documents. No. We're on FaceTime, just finding one thing after another. So let's talk about first this replacement knife and sheath. That I actually missed the first time around. When I saw that he bought the knife and the sheath and the sharpener 8 months before the murders, it was a eureka moment. But then came in the footnotes, this replacement knife and sheath. So walk me through your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of buried. It was like hundreds of pages of documents. And you mentioned that we were going through them till like 1 a.m. together. And I was also so struck by the fact that he bought the knife and the sheath, according to prosecutors, that I missed this one little teeny line in one of the state documents until I found it in the middle of the night, which is really, really interesting. They say that after the murders, so he bought the knife and the sheath before the murders, they say, but after the murders, they went through his click history on his Amazon account and that he was searching for a knife and sheath, which is very, very interesting when you think about why, perhaps. Did he suddenly realize that, he realized that he left the knife at the scene and wanted to have a knife in case police came knocking on the door and said, "Where's the knife?" So that's one possible
left
reason,
the sheath
really an interesting
at
piece
the
of information.
scene, right? Like left the sheath at the scene and then disposed of the murder weapon somewhere. It's never been found. We presume that if he's the killer, he took an hour to get back home, what would have been a 10-minute drive. So maybe circled somewhere far and wide and disposed of that knife. And then here's the other thing. Don't know when or if he knew, oh, dear God, I don't have the sheath. So let's talk about that next morning, because at like 9 in the morning, the cops don't know yet. The roommates don't know yet. 911 hasn't been called yet for hours. His Elantra is driving by the house again.
Yeah, they've got the surveillance video that shows him back near the house near 9:32 a.m., which makes you wonder what was going on there. Did he realize at that point that he had left the sheath behind and was perhaps going back and considering trying to get it again? Was he just going back to gawk and sort of, you hear about when people set a fire, an arsonist, and they want to go like kind of see the place burn. We don't know why he went back, but the selfie that you showed again.
Why do you guys think he went back? I think he went back. Either maybe he thought he dropped some clothing article, which I don't really, like a boot cover or something along those lines. Or maybe he was going to go back for the sheath. He was going to, try to sneak in there. But if he saw Dylan the night before, why would he try to sneak back in? You know what I mean? That would just be the dumbest thing ever. That'd be the dumbest thing ever. So he would have had to not seen her the night before. Because if he had seen her, right, the night before, he ain't going to try to go back in the house the next morning. Just no way. Just no way. What if she's up cooking breakfast in the kitchen? Or, you know what I mean? Like, that would be like him. That'd be crazy.
In the intro, which
I could see him going back, right, you know what I mean, to the back parking lot or something like that.
It's like so creepy to look at with the thumbs up and the shower in the background and like the kind of smirk. There it is. The selfie was taken at 10:31 a.m. So it's all very close together. He went back to the apartment or to the house, according to prosecutors, around 9:32, and then took the selfie an hour later at 10:31.
Which again, if he's the killer and the killings happened between 4 and 4:30 and he didn't get home till 5:30, you think that would be the first shower, right? If you're covered in that evidence. And so this looks like a fresh shower. And again, this is at 10:30. So this is, 5 hours after he would have returned home from the murders. Again, if he's the killer. So now I want to bring in another piece that is tied to all of this, because as we're trying to figure out, if he's the killer, was he going back to the house in the morning gawking and looking for action, or was he going back to find the knife sheath that perhaps he realized, dear God, I've dropped a critical piece of evidence? And that's now where I'm sticking, because there's some more evidence that came out in these documents that will take you there, and I'll explain it. So the state apparently did test runs through this house, parking a car, walking from where the killer's car would have been to the door, entering the house, going up the stairs,
very interesting,
pretending, to have killed 2 people, coming down the stairs, down the hall, killing 2 other people, and then making your way out of the house and back to the vehicle. And the key words that are used in the test run is taking off the bloody clothes and then driving away. First of all, I can't believe they did these tests. And they determined it is possible. It is possible to do all that in a very short amount of time. But taking those bloody clothes off, it made me wonder, if Kohberger's the killer and he was taking off those bloody clothes and didn't see in the darkness that the knife sheath, might have gone off with the clothing. Perhaps that's why he came back and spent 9 minutes at that house looking at the place where perhaps he had taken those clothes off the night before.
It's possible, or maybe he left some of the bloody clothes out, or he was worried that he left something behind if they think that maybe he was trying to change right out there outside the house next to the car or on the side of the house. Maybe he was looking for something outside the house. Maybe he was considering going back in to look for the sheath. But it's so interesting because when I was outside the house for all that time after the murders, there were weird things happening with the prosecutors and the police and the investigators and all the testing that they were doing. And there were just weird movements that they would do, walking to the door, going to the road. And I remember wondering what they were doing. And now that all these documents are coming out, it really sort of explains some of it. And I think some of what we saw were the test runs. They were trying to time it out and figure out how long it could have taken him. Because that's been one of the big perplexing things about the case is like, how did you go to bedroom, stab all of those young kids and manage to get away and no one see a thing?
Right. And of course, the reason we ask that is because they say there's no blood in the car. So how would that terrible bloody scene have not transferred into the car? Did he take off, he, meaning the killer, take off all the bloody clothes before getting in that vehicle in the darkness right there beside the house? So it's fascinating.
I don't think he did it outside, right? Like he's smarter than that. I mean, someone could see him, right? I would say he did it inside the house before he did it outside the house. Like, I don't know. I mean, if that was me, we already saw how he was driving, right? Like he didn't know which way was up. So I don't know. I would be nervous. I wouldn't do it outside. But you know where I would do it? I would do it right in the hallway, right when you walk in that front door. That's where I would. I mean, that's where I would. But he probably did it towards the back door. I don't know. Backslider. But we're going to find out during trial. We better find some of this stuff out. You better just tell us it all, Kohberger.
Because we couldn't see inside the house. They pulled all the blinds. But when they came in and out of the house, we didn't know what they were doing when they were inside. And now, of course, we can't know because they tore the house down. So another massive detail, I think, to drop last night. I'd never seen this anywhere. And it was one mention. It didn't repeat itself anywhere in the other documents I saw. And that is that Dylan said she was 3 feet away from the killer. And I just stretched my arm out because I still cannot believe that this is how far.
3 feet. I look at this. I got my tape measure because I was wondering 3 feet. I'm like, I'm curious. Let me stand up. Let me see how close I am. Okay, so like this is 3 feet. I don't know if that's all in the camera pretty much. It's pretty darn close. I was going to get Nancy out and I forgot. I was going to have her be my other person. But I mean, 3 feet. I'm trying to get it all in there. I'm not going to be able to get it all in the camera or in the thing unless I skid all the way back. But it's not very far, which it's about the same distance whenever we were looking in the, in the hallway there, on the map, the inside of the house that we have access to. Let me see if I can find it. We can just share this tab, but there's that's her room right there. He would have been coming around that corner. I think he would have been worried about other things. Whoever did this, 3 feet is the height of your 1-year-old. That seems tall. That seems really tall, Felicia. You're going to have a little basketball player on your hands. Doesn't that seem tall? Or am I just thinking it seems tall? But yeah, and I did measure it. It is about the same length of your arm. That's pretty close.
Roughly 3 feet is. And not only that, she saw him holding something.
Yeah, there were some interesting new nuggets involving Dylan because they actually included the verbatim statements that she made to police officers when she was talking to them about what she saw. And she said that she saw the person in the house holding something. She did not give more specifics than that, but she said holding something. And something else that struck me, Ashley, I don't know if you noticed this, she talked about how she had seen the picture of Bryan Kohberger. She had seen him in the vest, and I'm assuming she's talking about the moment where he was in that bulletproof vest when we were out there and they pulled him off the plane when they brought him back to Pennsylvania. She must have been watching the news, and they asked her during this interview, well, does that look like the person that you saw? And she said, I have no clue. So she wasn't able to make that connection, but she did go back several times to the bushy eyebrows, which again, I think is why that selfie, that creepy selfie picture is so important. That's why the prosecution is keying in on that. They want to show that picture to the jury and say, you know, do you think these are bushy eyebrows? This is the last photo of him taken after the murders.
And just, 5-6 hours after the murders, you can't have changed the eyebrows much in that short period of time. This is what the man looked like if this is him. I did find it very interesting in these documents to see that Dylan Mortensen interviewed 5 times with police and once in front of the grand jury. And never did she waver from, I saw bushy eyebrows, maybe one eyebrow, but bushy eyebrows is everything I remember. Can't tell you about the eyes. Can't tell you about much else. Yes, I was drunk. Yes, it was scary. But 5 different times from the moment they were in the parking lot out front of the house that morning, all the way through to the grand jury, her story never changed. 5 times with cops, once with the grand jury. I think that's super, super powerful. Then Ann Taylor, the defense attorney, comes along and drops a massive document. Got it here, actually. I've got the bushy eyebrows here, and then I've got the other one that's the neuropsychological and psychiatric evidence motion. And I read through that as well. And she brings up 3 neuropsychological conditions of Bryan Kohberger. She says he's got developmental coordination disorder, DCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, and then autism spectrum disorder, which is ASD. The significance of all of these are huge. She's explaining away a lot of the bad facts. So walk me through those.
Yeah, this was so fascinating to me because I wondered why she was suddenly having him tested and talking about him being on the autism spectrum and what that was going to have to do with anything, why this was becoming such a big component of things. And this explains it. She is trying to explain away some of the evidence connecting his disorders to why he may have done what he did, like developmental coordination disorder, impacts fine motor dexterity and visual motor function, couldn't have possibly killed 4 people and escaped that quickly because of the DCD, the developmental coordination disorder.
Well, then why is he driving?
The obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. Remember all the talk about him wearing gloves that night and he was trying to cover, fingerprints and evidence. She's saying, no, he was just wearing the gloves because he doesn't like germs, that he was double bagging because of the OCD, the garbage bags. Remember the shower curtain missing from the bathroom, that he doesn't like shower curtains because of contaminants. Fear of getting things getting in his eyes, that he has sleep issues. That's why he goes up in the middle of the night driving around.
Don't do that.
And then the autism spectrum disorder, that's why she says he doesn't show emotion on his face, has a piercing stare, does not show expected reactions, stiff body posture, little to no eye contact. So now we know why she wants to bring all of these disorders in. She's trying to tell the jury, she's going to try to tell the jury, hey, ignore all of this evidence because this can be explained away by these medical conditions.
Well, the one that stuck out the most to me there was his obsessive compulsive disorder means he has sleep issues and drives around in the middle of the night. So if stargazing wasn't good enough, they've now come up with a different reason for why he'd be out on a very cloudy night. I checked the weather, completely overcast night, stargazing. Now it's going to be, I have OCD, so I drive around at night. I'll be interested to see if his cell data shows that he drives around at night with his phone off any other night than the murder night. So
I think the autism would be better diagnosed if he was going to say he was using it to drive instead of OCD. I mean, in my humble opinion.
Great job. You got to get some sleep. That was a long, long night and really good work. So thank you, Bryan. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ash.
Now it'll go to the next one.
Okay, I want to bring in my friend Mark Aragos now. He's a criminal defense attorney, and now he's the co-host of two very popular podcasts, Reasonable Doubt and Two Angry Men. Mark Aragos, since you are the biggest expert I know in famous trials, I wanted to call you about all of these new details that have come out in these court documents after a desert, for 2.5 years, a gag order that's kept us all in the dark. I look at this as the layman and say he's finished. He's absolutely finished. He bought a K-bar knife, a sheath, and a sharpener 8 months before the murder, and then he bought a replacement K-bar knife, or was looking for a replacement K-bar knife and sheath right after the murders, and then you just add all this other stuff on. But what do you think about this massive document dump?
If I'm not mistaken, you and I talked about
Princess.
a while ago, as you said, it's been quite a time period of wandering around in the wilderness. But I think we talked about the fact that if they had a receipt for this knife or this sheath, obviously they didn't find the knife, sometime prior, that would be, as you call it, a bad fact. The one after, the searching after, the way it was phrased and the way it was buried leads me to believe it's not as significant as the purchase before. And why do I say that? I've had cases where prosecutors will argue that somebody went looking for a particular item on the internet, and then when you drill down into it, it turns out that it was just one in a stream of thousands of things that the browser does. So the one after doesn't really do much. If they can tie the sheath or the same kind prior to this, that's definitely going to be front and center of their opening statement and the trial for the prosecution, and the defense is going to have some explanation.
Right. I would also say I did not see a K-bar knife or a knife sheath or a knife sharpener on the manifest when they pulled everything out of his apartment a couple months later. So that's a bad fact, too. Where is that knife and sheath that's identical to the murder weapon and the murder sheath if it's not in your apartment and you just bought it, less than a year ago? So, okay, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is these conditions, these developmental conditions, developmental coordination disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and autism. These are the things she's saying make it impossible for him to have been able to run through that house as fast as he would have needed to commit all of those murders, and that this is the one I can't believe. The OCD made him drive around at night, wear gloves. When they arrested him, he was wearing gloves and sorting his trash into little plastic baggies, and change out his shower curtain all the time due to mold. And
I can understand the shower curtain thing. I can understand that. I can understand wearing the gloves. I wear gloves all the time. I do. I can't lie. I wear gloves when I change my trash. I wear gloves when I'm cleaning, but usually I'm cleaning and then like trash is at the end and I just have the gloves on at night. I just don't like chemicals on my hands. That's why I wear gloves. When you like spray down like Lysol and stuff like that, I don't like that getting on my hands because I've had a allergic reaction. I was using too many chemicals one night and had an allergic reaction and it was bad. So that's why I wear gloves. So I can't say much about Bryan wearing the gloves. I'm sure he does have OCD and autism, but I don't think he has developmental coordination disorder. Like, I don't even have that. And I can't, I'm not balanced to save my whole soul. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm gonna look into that.
And then the other one was was autism, to say
I'm not sure what it actually is, like a lot, but it seems like it's like your coordination is off. So I want to know what coordination, like what part.
Piercing stare, and he's strange. So don't judge a book by the cover. It just sounds to me like it's a desperate attempt to find something, anything, to chip away at the bad facts, but it doesn't look like much of a chipper.
Look, there's each one of those taken separately, I think could give you a plausible, it's a circumstantial evidence case. the law on circumstantial evidence in most jurisdictions is if there are two reasonable interpretations, they don't have to be equally reasonable, but two reasonable explanations. One points towards guilt, one towards innocence. You must adopt the one that points towards innocence. The problem, as you've outlined it, if in fact they're going to make those arguments, and I don't know that they necessarily are for each one of those facts. For instance, I'll take one of them out of your litany. The one about gloves and the trash later on, I'm not so sure that that's admissible as a probative fact, and it may be more prejudicial than probative. Why do I say that? That was a long period of time afterwards. If there was nothing in that trash that they found that was incriminating, why would you bring that in other than to just unfairly malign? So I don't know that that would necessarily be the one. I'll give you the prosecution argument is going to be, of course, he's going to try and use that for the shower curtain because he was trying to dispose of the shower curtain because the shower curtain was consistent with somebody who wanted to wash off any kind of the remnants of transferred DNA. So that's a tough fact, ultimately, that they're going to have to deal with. But I'll go back to the sheet. There still is, Ashley, there have been internet sleuths who have talked repeatedly about whether or not somebody took that sheath from him, and that's the reason you had the fingerprint. So if that does not undercut the theory, if they're going to say, yeah, it was mine, but somebody took it and here's who that person is.
Then where's the knife that was bought with the sheath? Like, that's great if you still have the knife, but my sheath was taken and planted with my DNA on that snap. It's just a little far-fetched to say, and I just lost that knife, coincidentally,
No, I think if the defense is going to be that somebody took the knife and sheath, and that is, yes, it's got his DNA, but the reason it's got his DNA because it was his. Somebody else took it. We don't know what happened with the knife because they took it. Yes, it was his, but he was not the person who was there. I believe that's got to be, if they've linked this up, assuming everything, that has to be the defense.
Crazy, because the handle of the knife would definitely have more of his DNA on it if someone wanted to plant his evidence at the scene, and the sheath had almost nothing on it. But okay, one last quick question, and I have to make it quick. The defense doesn't want the words psychopath or sociopath used at trial. Okay, state says they weren't planning to. And then the defense wants no inflammatory evidence like graphic autopsy photos. Well, Mark Garagos, since when does a defendant get to say you're not allowed to show the autopsy photos of a quadruple stabbing? Like, I just can't even imagine you'd ask that question.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here. A lot of times,
he's like, "Hey, it's a question that could be asked. He's like, I'll ask it too."
The victim's family does not want those photos entered into evidence or does not want them displayed in court, or will make the motion or join in the defense motion to just enter into evidence a small number of them for obvious reasons. Nobody wants to be sitting in a courtroom and watch their loved ones' remains be projected and then captured on the internet or paraded around in publications. So,
well, those days there should be no cameras allowed pointed anywhere near the autopsy photos. Like, there should be no cameras pointed in that direction anyway the whole time.
I understand that. And by the way, that once again goes to that analysis. Is it more prejudicial than probative?
Well, I think the jury needs to see the horror that this was in order to land upon something like a death penalty. I think they need to know exactly what happened to those 4 kids. That's me. Hey, Mark Garagos, great to have you. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
You got it, Ashley. Thank you.
I'm Brian Enton, live in Moscow, Idaho tonight, where we continue to look into the murder.
So this is December 5th, 2022. So like I said, they're kind of bouncing around, but it all makes sense how they're doing it.
That happened in the house behind me. 4 innocent college.
So December 5th, it was snowy.
Students now 3 weeks ago. Still no significant developments. Still no named suspect. Still no named persons of interest. I want to bring back in Ashley Banfield. And Ashley, I've been looking forward to this because I want to talk to you about this new information that we confirmed just before the special today. The new information is that Kaylee Gonzalez's injuries were significantly more brutal. That is what I can say. Significantly more brutal than her best friend Maddie's injuries. What do you make of that new piece of information, Ashley?
Well, it's astounding, for one, because this is the first time, Bryan, that you've been able to get the kind of information that helps us to perhaps try to figure out why this happened. Not saying this is definitive, but it certainly is one additional clue as to whether perhaps Kaylee might have been the target. But you got more information that makes it almost more complicated, and that is where the girls were found. So walk us through what you discovered today, because many of us didn't know which room when Kaylee's father said they were found in the same room and in the same bed.
Yeah, let me show you, Ashley. I want to take you up the hill here and get you oriented. This is the front of the house. There's now private security out front. And oh my, because it's going and it's very, very slippery. But we're going to walk you up to the back of the house. No windows on the side of the house. You've got the front door obviously on the front, which we know has the coded lock. On the back of the house, though, is where the bedrooms are. Confirmed that Kate's injuries.
Wouldn't it be better if you
Bryan,
just...
I think we just lost your mic, and I'm not sure. There, no, you're back. You're back. Can you just repeat what you said in the last 10 seconds? Your mic went dead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was explaining that we confirmed that Kaylee's injuries were more significantly brutal than Maddie's. We've also confirmed that they were on the third floor. I'm going to have Mo show you. Third floor here, where not easy access. You've got the balcony. There's a slider. You can't easily jump up there. So
and none of the
this has us
disturbed,
wondering, Ashley, and I want you to kind of walk through this with me.
So never mind.
If Kaylee's injuries were the most severe up on the third floor, and there's no way out of the third floor, would that mean the killer specifically targeted the third floor? Because it doesn't make any sense. Why would the killer go up to a floor where there would not be an easy exit for him? What do you make of that, Ashley?
Well, it's significant in that we still don't know where the killings began. Did they begin on the second floor where Xana Kernodle's room was? And of course, Ethan had been staying over that night. And we now know that that room was the room on the far side of the house. So not the side of the house that you're on right now, on the other side of the house at the front of the house. That's Xana and Ethan's. And then did they progress to the third floor? And while your mic was cutting out, I think the key piece of information that the audience couldn't hear was which room upstairs on the third floor the girls were actually found in. That before now, we only knew they were found together, but we didn't know in Maddie's room or in Kaylee's room. And so as we look at the third floor map right there, bedroom number E, or bedroom E, is Maddie's bedroom, and it looks out the back of the house. And bedroom F is Kaylee's bedroom, and it looks out the front, but also the back where the slider is. So what did you discover about which room? Maddie's room on the left or Kaylee's room on the right?
That's right. We confirmed that they were in Maddie's room, which is also interesting. That's something that we did not know. So Kaylee's injuries were significantly more brutal, but they were sleeping together in Maddie's room. So that helps put the puzzle together.
We have reported on the survivor's frantic call to 911. We have parsed the written transcript, and just last night, we were able to fill in some gaps and correct some discrepancies. But tonight, we have the recording itself in full, and I'm going to let you hear it in full. First, I'll just say this. The dead students' housemates, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, are joined on the call by two neighbors from next door. And at least when the call begins, it seems painfully clear that no one has the slightest idea of how bad the situation inside the house really is. So with that as your preamble. I'm going to go over a lot of the transcript after this call, so just listen and don't worry. I know some of it's really hard to hear, but I will go line by line for a lot of it. But I wanted you to hear it in its entirety so you can make judgments for yourself. Play it.
911 location of your emergency.
Something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the light, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And what's the phone number that you're calling from?
What's your phone number?
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah.
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, but we gotta go check. But we have to. Did you pass out? She's not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20 here.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Okay, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
You need to talk to them, okay? I can't talk to them. They need you to talk to them.
Hello?
Okay. I've already sent the ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
Say that again? There's a police here right now.
Okay. If there's a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
We don't have one. I think yes. Do you have a defibrillator? Yes, we have one.
Are you talking to the officer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you go since he's there with you and can help you.
Okay.
I am joined now by Steve Gonzalez. He lost his daughter, Kaylee, that tragic morning. Steve, I know that mercifully that the authorities gave you that tape before the rest of us. You've had some time. But beyond that, I don't know how, after 2.5 years of gag order, this landed with you. I don't know if this was more painful, more elucidating, a bitter pill. Tell me how you're coping with this at this point.
I'm a father, so it's not, my emotions are really my children and my wife. So I would say that they feel like they're slowly drowning, and I'm the guy that's trying to help them stay from drowning. And these slow leaks, this torturous process that we're going through, they've done a better job. They've responded to our feedback. We have said, hey, the 911 call is not something that we want to turn on TV and actually see. So they have responded. They have done a better job of, like, this is a community that doesn't know what murder is. They don't have any clue how to handle, public relations. It just doesn't really exist. So we're getting through it together, and it's hard to say it's getting better, but they are communicating, and we're trying to protect our children and protect all the families and protect the survivors to make sure that we don't have these trolls that are attacking them for no reason.
Did you get any clarity? Did you learn anything or any epiphanies when you listened to the call?
Yes. I mean, I always wanted it to make more sense. Like any murder, your brain wants to gravitate towards make this make sense, make this make sense. But the truth is, murder never makes sense. This is a psychopathic person who does something that breaks the norm of all of our consciousness. All of our minds are just struggling with the fact that this has happened. So we can logically try to make it make sense, but it's not really going to make sense. It's not Hollywood, where they try to make it all fit together. In real life, you're just sitting there dumbfounded, like, why can somebody be killed in their bedroom? How does that make sense?
You mentioned in a statement today that you think Hunter Johnson protected those girls. I mean, listen, I don't know what happened, but I'm trying to piece this together like a puzzle, and it sure feels like he knew something and he protected Bethany from knowing. Do you think that he went up to the third floor and may have seen what happened to Kaylee and Maddie, and therefore said, get out, get out, get out, but did not tell Bethany and did not tell Dylan?
I talked to Hunter directly, and it sucks. He had a broken soul. This is a man who's seen his best friend dead, dying, like gone. So we exchanged a moment, and I talked to him, and he was trying to protect everyone in that house to not go through what was overwhelming him at the moment. So I don't know about the details of upstairs, downstairs, door open, door not, but in the bigger picture, does it really matter? He was literally just responding to what he probably thought was a prank, thinking his friend, his best buddy, had these girls rolling. And he showed up there, and he seen the opposite of our prank. And I seen it in his eyes. He was broken. He was very broken from what he had seen.
Well, did Hunter tell you that he was able to open the door to Xana's room and witness Xana and Ethan in there?
He told me that he went to the door, and he was trying to go through that door, and he was trying to figure out what was going on in there. It's kind of like what you're hearing with that audio.
But we know that's not the truth. We know the door was open.
He announced himself. He said, hey, I'm here. What's going on? But they didn't respond. And he went in there, he seen something. And I think around 2:15, you hear when somebody truly sees something.
Yeah, it is pretty surprising, Ashley. You have to think to yourself, if you were on that jury and they just said it.
So this is from March 13th, 2025.
Court, oh, it's a tip that led us to Bryan Kohberger and led us to do the cheek swab and then connect the DNA from him to the knife sheath. It was just a tip. You'd have to imagine they would be sitting there wondering, well, what tip was it? How did you get to that point? we've now learned they're not going to find out. That's not going to come in during trial. The judge just ruled on that today. It's been a year, more than a year, that there's been so many court hearings and fights back and forth about the investigative genetic genealogy, the defense trying to poke holes in it, saying that it's unfair, saying that it's not scientifically tested, that it's a new technology that they used. I thought it was going to be a big part of their defense at trial. Apparently not. They've said they don't want to bring it in. The prosecution has said they don't want to bring it in. The judge has agreed, and it's apparently not coming in.
And that's what was sealed today. So that's weird that this was so long ago. It's just sealed today.
Jesse, I feel like those are several months I will never get back. The pitched battle between the defense and the prosecution under seal, I might add, which drives me even crazier because to me that is secret justice, not American justice. But, you know, when it comes right down to it, Jesse Weber, a swath, you know, of his cheek matches the DNA on the knife sheath. Do we need to even know anything more than that? The DNA on here matches the DNA in that cheek. Does the jury need to know anything more than that?
Probably not, because let me break it down for this. So it is a 5.37 octillion times more likely that is Bryan Kohberger's DNA than anybody else. Not a shocker. They're not trying to challenge it. But let's, for argument's sake, take this argument. Okay, it was his DNA on the knife sheath and somebody decided to plant it. Okay, so now you're wondering, how did that happen? How did the DNA get on the knife sheath? Who would want to frame him? And by the way, if this is a plot to really frame Bryan Kohberger here, then this is somebody who would also have to make sure that his cell phone turned off at the key times during this.
He didn't leave his DNA there.
The cell phone pings that were on would track the same movements of his car headed towards and away from the direction of that area, that the car would also have to be in that area at least 4 times that night. And also the assailant would have to dress up and look like somebody like Bryan Kohberger, who matched the description from the eyewitness about the bushy eyebrows. So all of these things together would have to be someone framing Bryan Kohberger. And call me crazy, but that seems to be beyond, belief. Now, I'm curious to see where they go with it. This is the prosecution's narrative of trying to say what the defense is going to do here. But I got to tell you, Ashley, after you said so many court hearings where they tried to make sure this evidence wouldn't come in, saying that his rights were constitutionally violated, that it wasn't reliable, at this point, their only option is to admit it is his DNA, but there's another explanation for why it's there. I'm curious to see what that explanation will be.
So once again, Brian, the knife sheath and the snap had a tiny, tiny little sample of DNA. And by the way, that tiny, tiny little sample was so tiny and the integrity of it was so questionable, it had to go to a specialist to pull out a full profile in order to be able to actually put it into the genealogy base. So if someone is trying to frame, if this is the defense argument, that someone is trying to frame Bryan Kohberger, really? That's how they're going to frame him? Find something with barely any DNA on it at all and just hope that maybe they can find a sample, pull out that profile from that speck, that minuscule. I mean, doesn't it start to sound, and here's the word, really unreasonable?
It does, and I'm just trying to play it out in my mind. If they actually try to argue this out in court, are they going to say that there was someone out there who killed these college kids, who then went and got the knife sheath from Bryan Kohberger, they stole it or something, and it had the little bit of DNA on Kohberger, and then went to the house and put it in there after doing it, or brought it with them and then dropped it on purpose, trying to frame Kohberger? I mean, it is all sort of hard to wrap your mind around. But Jesse made a good point. I think this is important. I mean, this all came out through a state filing, and it is the prosecutor who is trying to explain what the defense witness is going to say at trial, possibly. So this isn't coming directly from the defense. So maybe this is just one sort of theory that they've floated around and that they're not necessarily going to use as a defense trial. We don't know.
Just like an alternate suspect. She's dropped that on us and left, for the weekend, Ann Taylor. She probably will never bring that up again.
But it is kind of hard to imagine.
Yeah, if I were trying to frame someone and I was going into their apartment to steal their knife sheath, I would probably steal the hair from their hairbrush and leave the hair fibers on the body, which are perfectly traceable. Joining me right now is NewsNation senior national correspondent Bryan Kohberger. He's been following this.
This is March 15th, 2025.
Case since the beginning. Let's start at the very beginning. Your impression overall of the call, Bryan.
Yeah, heartbreaking. Just the panic in their voices, the way it sort of evolves throughout the call from what you can feel they're thinking in the beginning versus it almost feels like there's this moment where they discover that something really, really bad has happened midway through the call. And then actually I was just thinking about how we know so much about the case now. When you listen to it knowing all of the facts and everything that's come out, but you just sort of put yourself in their shoes in that moment, just waking up, knowing nothing after a night of partying, and just the pure horror that must have been like for these young college kids.
And we do have to put our hats on for being them at that moment, not hindsight. There's so much we know now, but they knew nothing at that point. And this next bit, I think, highlights how little they knew, Bryan, because at first, a neighbor gets on the phone and says, one roommate is drunk and passed out. Let me read the transcript. The dispatcher says, tell me what's exactly going on. Female neighbor says, one of the roommates who's passed out and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. It's very, she's very matter of fact, and she definitely doesn't sound terrified. They have not seen anything. Like, with that kind of a tone of voice, even though Dylan is seemingly very upset at the beginning, that's not somebody who knows there's a bloodbath upstairs.
Right. And remember, based on the witnesses who we spoke to after this happened, all of these kids were out in the front driveway and out towards the road. It seems like when they were on the phone for part of the 911 call. I think that's why the neighbor at one point from the house to the right took the phone. But you made an interesting point when she says, saw a man in the house around 4 a.m. It's almost like she's less concerned about that at that moment, which kind of goes back to the text messages and all the questions about, well, why didn't they call 911 then? I mean, perhaps they really did just think this was some kind of prank. It was a party house. And when she says saw a man in the house around 4 a.m., she doesn't sound that concerned about it. She seemed more worried that someone's passed out and not responding, not as worried like, hey, there was an intruder in the middle of the night.
Or maybe that intruder, by the way, if we have non-responsive housemates, maybe that intruder brought something last night, gave it to them, and that's why they're not responding. Maybe they've OD'd. It really feels to me like that's the level of their fear and concern, not there was a homicidal maniac in the home last night, because, I mean, that would be very upsetting if you're a housemate whose other housemate is unable to answer her door and is out cold. Okay, the other issue, and this is the first time I'd seen this, I had to listen to it a lot of times. At one point, it sounds like they are repeatedly calling at the door, at Xana's door, Xana, Ethan, knock, knock, knock. It really does sound like they're trying to rouse her, but that they can't get past that door. That door is closed.
Yeah, and it's unclear. You're trying to sort of visualize where everybody is in the house and what's actually happening during the call. And we don't really know, but you're right. They do call out for Xana and Ethan. They appear to be looking for them. And again, you can kind of hear they're panicked in the beginning, but it seems to become more panicked as the call goes on. And there's that one point where it's just like that heavy breathing. It's almost like a panic attack at that point. That's kind of what I thought of.
Okay, there's one point where a male gets on the phone, and we think that's now a fraternity brother of Ethan's named Hunter Johnson. And that male on the phone sounds like he may know something is up. And I'll say that because it sounds like it might be his voice saying, Xana, Ethan, and can't get past that door. But it's possible he may have gone to the third floor because there's a long break in between the Xana, Ethan, no response, then a panicked response from Dylan and a get out, get out, get out. Let me read the transcript. So the male says, Xana, Ethan, and 6 seconds pass. Dylan says, she's passed out. What's wrong? Knock, knock, knock. She's not waking up. Male says, Xana. They're thinking there's just some shadowy figure in the house, maybe a burglar, maybe a drug dealer, maybe a friend of one of the roommates who shouldn't have been wandering. I'm 100% plus convinced they have absolutely no idea of the horrors that are actually happening. And actually, that brings me to you, Dave, as a prosecutor.
Oh, I didn't see the date on this one.
This is kind of in the weeds, but I'm going to say it in layman's terms, and you tell me if I get it right or wrong. The reason we have these filings right now, this week, right, for the first time we're seeing these text messages, is not for the truth that the text messages offer. They are an exception to the hearsay rule just because they want to establish a timeline. Why does that matter? And if you read the fine print, it says they plan to have Bethany and Dylan testify. We all expected that would happen. But then why do you have to have this hearsay stuff? If they're going to testify, you can ask them about their text messages. Is this filing in case they don't have them get up on the stand, that you can use their text messages without them?
No, they're going to testify. They got to authenticate the text messages anyways. And really, their testimony is so much more powerful now that you have the text messages. So when the defense lawyer says, oh, but you didn't call 911, and tries to put doubt in the jurors' minds, they can go back to the text messages and see in real time what they were thinking, how freaked out they were. They can see the timeline. They can see the fact that someone was walking around in all black and a ski mask. So it's important to introduce those text messages because they are what you call present sense impressions, which is an exception to the hearsay rule. And the reason why is that it's a spontaneous comment. It's got to be made while the person was perceiving the event. And that spontaneity makes it trustworthy. And that's why it's allowed in under an exception to the hearsay rules. And it'll be powerful corroborating evidence to their testimony in real life.
Like an excited utterance. Alexander, I'm going to ask you to think through this sort of as, again, it's just us girls talking, but one thing I couldn't understand, and I hope that the facts will help me get through this at trial, was why these two roommates have a neighbor and other friends coming to the house to deal with the crisis that is, I'm assuming, behind the locked door of Xana Kernodle's room. They're trying to revive Xana. They're trying to call her, text her. She's not answering. For whatever reason, someone thinks she's unconscious there. But at no point does anyone walk up the stairs to Kaylee and Maddie's rooms and say, hey, girls, do you know anything about why Xana's not answering? Did you guys give her something? Were you out drinking with her? We can't rouse her. And yet they call other people to the house. If they'd only walked up the stairs, they would have seen the horrors and imagined maybe those horrors exist behind the door of Xana's room. Is that something that a defense attorney can seize on? Or is this just kids being kids and not making sense? It has nothing to do with whether Kohberger's guilty or not.
I think that kids in college that are living in a house where people are partying constantly, I think that their biggest real fear is somebody dying of alcohol poisoning while they're there. Somebody having some kind of a tragic accident that can be blamed on them. Oh my God, was Jana so drunk that we should have done something to help her, and now she's not responding, and now we're in trouble. I think that's the first thing that college kids think about. Am I in trouble for this tragedy that's happening right now? I think alarm bells go off. Are my parents going to be pissed because I've been drinking? So I think that that's what's going through their head. Am I in trouble? So I don't even think that they have to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they have the capacity to think what else is going on? How much bigger can this get? Because this is the exact, this is the emergency, is I might be faced with Jana not waking up, and how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to get myself out of this? I don't think the fact that like somebody might have slaughtered everyone in that house was ever going to
ever crossed anyone's minds. I agree with you. The biggest fear at this point is they think somebody is, incapacitated and might have OD'd or choked, that kind of thing. But hell, did they not know the hell that awaited them?
Yeah, I agree with that. I can agree with that. Hello, Monet. How are you? Hey, Debbie. But see, even if it didn't snow, though, the ground still gets frozen before it snows. I mean, it could be 28 degrees outside or under 32 and not snow, right? We tried to bury a dog. I just put something in the chat, but it was a dog. Unfortunately, our dog passed away, and I didn't think about cremating her or anything like that. We've always just buried our dogs at my brother's place. Like that poor guy, like it happened once and then it happened again. And now his dog is up, like one of his dogs is up there, and it's just like a little like spot on his property. But he had to use a backhoe. Like he's like he was like, just bring the dog, like, the dog up here to my land. But he told me, he was like, I had to use the backhoe, like to dig the hole. He's like, the ground was completely frozen and we hadn't gotten snow by then. This was like the first week of December. We normally don't get snow in Ohio until like later in December, January. Thank you guys. It was traumatic for me and for Vincent, because it was our dog, but it was Vincent's first dog. It was really sad. So yeah, I mean, it's just a thing now. If the animals pass away, they go to my brothers. Thank you, Ashley. I just did this. We just redid the whole setup. I'll show you. Oh, one of my dogs left. The other one's sleeping. Oh, she's sleeping back there, guys. Oh, she just woke up. Hello. And then there's like a little fake dog down there, that little white one. It's like a balloon animal. Nancy, she's in the closet. I need to get her back out. I like kind of messed her up a little bit, like on her side. I was like, oh, dang, sorry, Nancy. They get another one. I always jump scare people though whenever I have her in my background. Plus my background's so like bougie now, she doesn't really go with it. I mean, she is pretty bougie. I ain't gonna lie. She's worth 25 million. She's more bougier than I am. I could put her somewhere though. I just had we had just redid the place and I didn't have a spot for her. I know, Mia. She's like, that's her spot. It's her couch. That dog is 90 pounds. That dog, that's a pretty big chair. Like, on her hind legs, she's the length of the bed, like all the way from the top to the bottom, all the way the length of a queen bed. Yeah, I do have beautiful dogs. They're crazy. They're crazy. All right. I'll tell you that other one, she's not in here. She left me. I'm gonna have to go find her now. I had to use the restroom earlier, so I got up and she walked out. And the cat like walked in and was like, I'm ready for my snacks. I think he left though. Yeah, he left. Just me and Mia. I was looking around for him because sometimes he'll be sneaky. Thank you, Ladybug. She's very pretty. She's a very pretty dog. She's silver, like that. She's that silver color. She's a Weimaraner. And she must sleeps in the pillows. That's where she must sleep. So Vincent sleeps like down the bed. I'm like, move the dog. He won't. I think it's funny. So I don't think he buried the evidence. Well, no, actually what I was going to say is he could have still buried it. He could have went out there and dug a hole like, prior, but you would think that the mound of dirt would be really solid and hard for him to try to fill it back in. But I mean, it's possible. Yeah. And he might've been able to dig, I just don't know, with the Snake River being right there, just tossing it in there. I mean, that just seems like it would be a little bit easier. Especially if he wasn't going to use it again. I don't know. Maybe he was going to use it again, but I don't think he was, because he was buying it. He was looking for a new knife and sheath on Amazon. So maybe he was just going to buy a new one. I don't know. Maybe he was going to bury them all in different places. And then if he wanted to go back to relive his crime, he could. So yeah, Trey, he hiked too. And he could run a 6-minute mile. So, I mean, he could run fast. But he was out that night for like, from what was it, 5:30 to 8:30 off the network. Yeah, they did find a shovel in the trunk. Yep. And it wasn't a snow shovel. It was like a regular shovel. It was like, I think shorter, maybe. But I mean, still, I don't know what you would need a shovel for like that. Like a you know what I mean? Like a gardening shovel. Nope. Can't think of any reason to have a gardening shovel in the backseat of my car. I think he might have kept something too. You know, most serial killers do anyway. This was a mass murder, so I don't know. Yeah, Ashley, it is a Weimaraner. Yep. I'll show you her again. Yeah, she's back here just sleeping. She's with her legs over the side and her hand over the side. Oh, last night she had her hand over the side and it was touching her sister. It was so cute. You think he buried the knife? I hope we find out. Either way, I hope we find out. We probably won't find out something like that. That'll probably be something that he'll take, you know, with him all the way to the firing squad arena or whatever you want to call it. But, you know, they do want to keep trophies. So I do think that he might have something of theirs. And whenever they were talking about the IDs, I thought maybe it was the IDs because Kaylee and Maddie, they weren't carrying purses that night. I think Kaylee had a wallet though on the back of her phone case. I think that's where we saw her take her card from, but she could have had her like ID in her back pocket, easy to get to. I know whenever I used to go out, when I was in my early 20s, I'd always put my ID in my back pocket, like instead of even in my purse, because, you know, digging in your purse when you're trying to get into like a bar, people are not trying to wait on you. You know what I mean? So I just always had it handy. So I thought maybe when they got home, they just put them on the dresser. And then he saw them and that was something easy he could have grabbed, but we'll find out. We'll find out due time. Well, you know, if he did have any of their stuff in his house, that if they collected anything. But thank you guys for being here tonight. I appreciate it so much. I'll be back on tomorrow evening at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you. We're getting really close to hitting 20,000 subscribers, guys. So it's very humbling. Like I was looking at the number earlier and like, I just remember when there was one of you. I wonder who my first subscriber was. Vincent probably, but it probably was. But you know, like I remember my first couple of subscribers, my first 100, I remember September of 2022. Yeah. September 2022, I had 179, I believe, subscribers. And now look at us. Look at us. We're growing. So thank you guys so much for, you know, spending a little bit of your time with me tonight. I appreciate it. If you guys don't mind, hit the like button on your way out. It really does help the channel grow. So I will see you guys all here tomorrow evening. And hopefully you guys have a great, what is it, Wednesday? Tomorrow's Wednesday. Hump day tomorrow. Have a great hump day. You're almost halfway through the week. Bye, guys.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire.